Okay, folks, welcome back. If you could please find your seats. Thank you. Welcome back to the folks on the live stream. We appreciate you being here with us. We're going to get into a little bit of an international focus now. You heard a lot about the International MLS Forum that we had a couple of weeks ago in Milan, and some of those folks who participated are here with us today. If everyone could please find their seats. These folks have spent significant time preparing for this event, so conversations in the hall, attendees in the room. Thank you. Joe Schneider was one of our hosts for the event in Milan, and a couple of our participants here as well from multiple different countries. So we're excited to have him here and talk about international growth. Joe Schneider.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Joe Schneider. I am the EVP of Consulting for Modern.tech and as last week, the president of MLSProptech.com. I also have the immense pleasure of being a host for the International MLS Forum. As Sam mentioned, we're about 2 weeks removed from the last iteration in Milan. By every conceivable metric, the event was an overwhelming success. We doubled the amount of attendees and also countries represented from the previous year. But I think the really cool thing about this conference this past year in Milan was the makeup of the audience. So this year we had a lot of government officials and a lot of prop tech companies. The government officials was a really, really interesting stat because for everything that we're going through here in the US, the governments overseas understand the value of an organized, coherent data market and everything that entails. Obviously from the Proptexx side of things, prop tech companies have the ability to scale and grow and expand really quickly, without any border restrictions, when there is an international RESO standard. Now, we are a couple years away from that, but we're making every stride that we can and hope to kind of get to that point here really soon. And so to that end, we've assembled a panel of experts here that kind of represent a lot of different stakeholders. So with that, I'm gonna kick it over to Lynette for her introduction.
Awesome, thank you, Joe, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Lynette Keyowski, the managing partner for REACH Canada. REACH is a global technology scale-up program under the auspices of the NAR and its venture capital arm, Second Century Ventures. And the Canadian program that me and my partner, Mike McCara, run is one of 7 regional programs where we scale technology globally. So we have programs, also 2 programs obviously here in the US, the mothership programs for both resi and commercial solutions, but we also have programs in the UK, Latin America, Australia, Southeast Asia, and most recently Israel. So really we are here to scale technology globally for the US market, but also for those international markets.
Great, thanks Lynette. Josh, over to you.
So my name is Joshua Lamerton, co-founder at Proptexx, handling the tech and product. We were fortunate enough to go through the NAR REACH program in Canada, and we're active in over 63 countries, providing an array of sort of AI and deep tech solutions for the industry, mainly focusing on like the brokerage and property portals. So thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Perfect, thanks Josh. Kerry.
Hi, Kerry Rakuson. I'm the industry engagement partner with Centris from Canada. So lots of us Canadians up here. One of the things that I really am happy about joining the Centris group is that I get to bring my sort of over 19 years, I did the math, yes, I'm old, 19 years of experience to Centris, where I come from not only the MLS executive side of things, but also the Proptexx side of things. And I've been in the REACH program as a mentor, but I've also been in the REACH program, REACH USA, REACH Canada. I've worked with startups, Proptexx coming out of the REACH Australia program. So been a part of all of that. And then now luckily get to be with Centris, who is an MLS, but also a technology company. And we have proprietary technologies that are expanding around the globe, and we're really excited about that.
Perfect, great. So let's dive into it. Lynette, we discussed that the International MLS Forum is, at the end of the day, trying to build one coherent global standard around the globe. Talk to us about REACH right now, and you mentioned all the different REACH cohorts and classes. At the end of the day, tech is tech, but in this industry, it's not. So talk to us about reach and some of the barriers that prevent your companies from expanding to different markets around the world.
Yeah, I think it's not going to be a surprise or probably new news because we heard a lot of it this morning, and we certainly heard a lot of it at the International MLS Forum in Milan. Standards, I think, are important because they break down barriers.
Yeah.
And really where we see the challenges are not just in data, because we see those challenges even here at home between MLSs. We see them even within MLSs, the challenge with standardizing data. But it's really also standards around culture, business behavior. And I think that's where any system of standards, any set of rules of engagement, like Sam mentioned earlier this morning, really need to be level set in terms of allowing great ideas and innovation to flow. And so we heard a lot about this. Culturally, it's as important to have a great set of rules. And I think that's the beautiful thing around organized real estate in North America, that a lot of the European markets especially are looking for is what is that organized, consistent set of rules upon which you can have some standards so that when you have great technologies that are looking to expand, they can build on the back of data standards, but also cultural standards, so that when you're entering those markets as a technology provider, you understand the culture. And I think there's room for standardization, but there is also an opportunity to honor and respect the fact that there are different cultures and ensuring that when, and Josh, you'll be able to speak to this, and I know, Kerry, you're going to get into a lot of this as well, understanding the culture and being able to meet people where they're at, your customer base, whether that's the MLS provider or whether that's the listing provider or the portal, is a key component. And so standardization is great, but it needs to come on the back of understanding the culture that you're entering as well.
Really important point, yeah. So Josh, Proptexx, it's a pretty universal product out there. It's can seemingly, you'd think, be easy to kind of implement into any market, but talk to us about your experiences in working in a market with a RESO data standard or coherent data standard versus a market without one.
Yeah, it's the business operations internationally are completely different. So how listings are created, sort of added into let's say a portal. There's actually a completely different process to that. So the data layer is it's crucial, and to Lynette's point, I mean, it's so different, country to country, where there's ambiguous sort of like how you classify an image, how you sort of tag an image. Room types are different, styles are different, a way a property is described is different. So technically, being a vendor in the market, it's all about building modular architecture and how you can, one, scale that, but then also apply that to different regions. And there's like software development frameworks, there's things that support internationalization and localization, like the I-18N sort of standards for software development. But where we sit on the AI side is, we use a lot of natural language processing to interpret ambiguous data to try to build a standard. And of course, the advancements in sort of neural networks and more on the deep tech side allows us to sort of apply those solutions at scale in diversified markets. So yeah, I mean, still a huge challenge, but with the advancements from technology, we're trying to overcome those hurdles. So.
Great. So Kerry, Centris is making some really incredible strides in Europe and creating these new MLS systems. Obviously, that process is going to be a lot different on a RESO-backed standard versus a non-RESO-backed standard. Talk to us about your experience in expanding into Europe and everything that goes along with that, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Well, I think what's really interesting is we're running a couple projects right now. One is an international move into the US market with our deeply integrated MLS member portal, but also the public portal that we're launching in Europe with our partners with MLS Europe, which is a consortium of brokers and associations in multiple countries with multiple data inputs. And we have to take that, they're working with no standard, and what we've done is built that back end, that RESO standard database that we're driving everything off the public portals with. And that's a really important piece. A lot of times when we're talking about standards, we talk about, is that field like hockey rink or arena? Is that field, we spend a lot of time talking about that stuff, but it's really that umbrella that allows us to move that data within that standard so we can do deep integration. Our group is definitely an integration specialist group. Yeah. And so we've built this. So what we've noticed, because we're doing these two projects with one of the top 5 MLSs in America, as opposed to what we're doing in Europe, where we're launching a portal in 2 countries through this consortium. It took us days for my team to send a note out of the one in America. Hey, there's data there, right? And we were looking at listings within our system versus weeks and weeks with the Europeans where we're normalizing that data, we're getting it into the database so we can transport it and utilize it to the consumer properly.
Great. So I'm going to stick with you, Kerry, and let's fast forward a couple of years here. The world is on a single RESO data standard, the entire world. What does that look like for Centris?
Well, I think what's interesting is Centris understands data standards because we're a little different in Canada. Yeah. And we had created years ago an actual standard that we call the provincial standard because we brought 12 associations and 5 different MLS systems together to become Centris and the one system. So we've done that work. And so our group dove head in and adopted 2.0 and said, look, our future is so that we can have this back end, that we can offer an expansion globally, and our future is to make sure we can work effectively with the industry, whether that's providing a customer our product in a flexible way, or whether that's like integrating with another product that serves our customers better in the long run, whether that's the consumer customer or whether that's the MLS agent subscriber customer. So we've just dove into that. So for us, we said, this is our future move. We need to do this. We need to make sure we're using that RESO API environment. We need to make sure that we're doing something we can translate across the globe. But to Lynette's point, I think one of the things around culture is really important because tech doesn't capture that. Yeah. So because Quebec's different, we already understood how to deal with needing to be flexible. So we're coming into those markets, meeting them where their culture is and understanding that flexibility.
Great. Yeah, that's really important, and really the opportunity is kind of everywhere out there. So Josh, same question to you. What kind of opportunities will exist for you guys, from a technical perspective, from a business perspective, when the world is unified on a standard?
Yeah, I mean, creating access to data where, does it make the vendor obsolete? Maybe not, but it gives these bigger tech or bigger sort of portals or brokerages that are building their own technology access to a structure that they can build on top of. So for the vendor, continuing to advance in general development, but giving a structured data layer to a large brokerage or portal will help expedite any development internally, but then also help with the sort of augmentation of general technology in the market, making vendor technology accessible through an optimized and structured sort of API, sort of data lake, and again, back to the advancements in AI, now it's really how do you take unstructured data and how do you structure that, and then how do you generate insights and business intelligence. So I think it'll expedite development, and of course the data dictionary is a great example of how applying that in Europe will help sort of maybe fill the void with cultural issues or misinterpretation of how to label rooms or how to write property descriptions. So.
Great. Really good answer. So Lynette, having worked a little bit with Reach in a past life, you guys are really kind of scaling up all of your international cohorts here. So talk to us kind of about what that could look like. How do you supercharge this if there is a standard, and how you can really pump those companies up?
Yeah, and I think so. I mean, I think creating that consistency and that consistent layer really just means that you selfishly increase the TAM and the marketability for the companies that we work with. But largely, to Josh's point, what it does is it's kind of like that rising tide raises all boats perspective, right? So yes, there are the cultural issues. Yes, there are the community requirements that I think still need to be there. But once those get developed, you now have a standard on which companies can build, which really increases the total addressable market that they have to serve. And so selfishly, it meets our needs in terms of scaling the companies that we work with. But that objective, which is really the REACH mission, is to bring excellent, high quality technology to the real estate industry writ large. And so it really does raise the tide for all people to participate and benefit, so that when you have evolved community, evolved culture, you have technology that is prolific and can, access all corners of the globe. And that's why, from a REACH perspective, the global footprint is really, really important, because there's amazing innovation that's happening at all corners of the world, and allows us to tap into some of those things. Offers the opportunity not just to expand the footprint of the companies and the REACH portfolio, but allows REACH to find those great solutions that are out there with a standardized technology layer, standardized data layer. It just brings the ability to deliver those technologies much more effectively.
Yeah, I love that point, because obviously we're going through a lot of change here in North America with our markets and our systems, and in some ways we're going to look a little bit more like the European markets, and so that allows these European technologies born and bred in those markets to have applicability here in North America. So I think there's going to be a huge expansion of that, and see more opportunities from these international companies moving into North America, where largely the conversation's been over the last few years of North America out to the rest of the world. So excited to see that and how that kind of plays into the market. And so we're running down on time here. I want to kind of give you each another minute or so here to kind of wrap up your thoughts. Where are we now, and what do we need to do to kind of get to this point of having a global standard? Kerry, why don't we start
with you? I think it's exciting times, and it's happening faster than ever. Like, being around startup Proptexx for so long, I'm seeing a real shift here, which is exciting. I will give this advice. Centris decided to rip the Band-Aid off. Somebody talked about that earlier today on stage, and just said, it's a lot of pain, but let's rip it off in one foul swoop versus that slow cutting pain. And I would encourage everybody to start doing that, because even if you're not looking to the global market, you may want to look at the global market to support you in the future. And without actually doing that, you're going to have a harder time implementing, and time is money, everybody.
Yep. Josh, how about you?
Yeah, I think the thought process is it's all about innovation enablement and collectively as an industry. So what's working here and what's working there might not work in vice versa. So I think it's creating not necessarily transparency in development, but definitely sort of sharing ideas, and accelerator programs are great for that, because think of like the think tank concept. You're just exchanging ideas and thoughts and sharing knowledge, and to Lynette's point, I mean that sort of raises all sort of boats. So yeah.
Great. Lynette?
Yeah, and I would just say it's community from my perspective. I think it's all of the pieces that you're building on in terms of data standards, identifying new technology. Where the rubber meets the road is when you build great community, and this is a perfect example of that. The fact that this is the largest ever attended RESO conference says that this is a great community to be part of, and it's the conversations that leave this room that are now expanding internationally and are now bleeding across, MLS borders and association borders and geographical borders, US and Canada, that will, I think, continue to allow these standards to evolve. And so I'm a big believer that it is community. It's what we focus on from a REACH perspective. We say that REACH is a big family globally. We see that when we get 200 technology firms together for an annual portfolio summit, and the massive distribution of ideas and integrations and partnerships. And I think the more we can encourage those things to happen in the industry, the faster we'll see some of this change happening.
Yeah, that's great. So thank you guys so much for your thoughts. Before we kind of kick off here, shameless plug, the International MLS Forum will be next year in Toronto. A little bit more accessible to get to, and to your point about community, this is not something that Sam and RESO can do on its own. This is everybody in this room, MLSs, government stakeholders, MLSs, everybody needs to kind of come together to kind of build this community moving forward to get to that final goal of creating an international RESO standard. So with that, please give our panelists a round of applause. All right, thank you everybody.